I dragged my worn-out sneakers across the polished marble floor of the Grand Celeste Hotel, my father's crown jewel. But tonight, I wasn't strolling in as the owner's daughter. No, I was just another nameless face in a cheap hoodie, my hair tied back in a way that made me look like I belonged anywhere but here. The hotel was magnificent, gold-trimmed chandeliers, staff gliding across the floor like synchronized dancers, guests dressed in designer outfits. But I wasn't here to admire it. I was here to see the truth, to find out how the employees treated the people who weren't dripping in wealth. I walked up to the front desk, my fingers gripping the straps of my old backpack. Hi, I was wondering if you had any cheap rooms available. The woman behind the desk barely looked up. Her name tag read Stephanie. She exhaled sharply, rolling her eyes before scanning me up and down. Are you lost? She asked, her voice dripping with annoyance. No, I need a room for the night, I said. Her lips curled into a smirk. Do you have any idea how expensive this place is? I swallowed hard. I'd expected some rudeness, maybe even some condescension. But the sheer hostility in her voice surprised me. I can pay, I stammered. Stephanie let out a laugh, shaking her head.
Right.
And I'm the Queen of England. A man in a dark suit approached. Jason, the night manager. His eyes flicked toward me, then to Stephanie. Is there a problem here? This girl, Stephanie scoffed, thinks she can afford a room here. Jason turned to me, his lips pressing into a thin line. Miss, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. We don't allow loitering. Loitering. I clenched my fists, my blood boiling, but I kept my face neutral. I had to see how far this would go. I'm not loitering. I'm asking for a room. Jason's patience snapped. Security. Within seconds, 2 guards flanked me. The entire lobby had gone quiet. Guests were staring. Some whispered. My stomach twisted as they grabbed my arms, dragging me toward the entrance. I can walk, I muttered, shaking them off. But they didn't listen. The grand doors swung open, and with a hard shove, they pushed me out into the cold. I stumbled forward, barely catching myself. Laughter rippled behind me. I turned, looking at the towering hotel that bore my family's name. They had no idea who I was. But they were about to find out. I stood outside, my breath fogging in the cold air. My heart hammered in my chest, not from fear, but from pure, burning rage. They had humiliated me. In my own hotel. The Grand Celeste wasn't just a luxury spot for the world's elite. It was supposed to be a home, a place where every guest, rich or poor, was treated with dignity. Or at least, that's what my father thought was happening. I had always suspected otherwise. That's why I went undercover. But I hadn't expected it to be this bad. I needed to think, needed to act. And more than anything, I needed to make them pay. The next morning I was back. But this time, I wasn't wearing an old hoodie. I walked through the grand doors of my hotel with the confidence of a storm about to break. My heels clicked against the marble, my designer suit crisp and sharp. Every eye in the lobby turned toward me. Stephanie was at the front desk again, typing lazily on her computer. She glanced up and froze. Her face drained of color. The woman she had thrown out onto the street last night was now walking toward her like she owned the place. Because I did. She fumbled to stand, her lips parting, but no words came out. Jason, the night manager, appeared from the back office, straightening his tie. He shot me a charming smile. Welcome to the Grand Celeste, miss.
He stopped.
Recognition dawned on his face. The blood drained from it. My name, I said, voice smooth but sharp as a knife, is Victoria Celeste. Silence. Stephanie's hands trembled. Jason took a step back. I believe, I continued, my eyes locking onto them, you both made quite the impression last night. Jason's mouth opened, then closed. Stephanie looked like she wanted to disappear. And Miss Celeste, she stammered. It was a mistake. A mistake? I arched a brow. Funny. I don't recall you accidentally calling security on me. Or accidentally humiliating a guest in front of the entire lobby. Jason's hands clenched at his sides. Miss Celeste, I assure you I held up a hand. Save it. The doors behind me opened again. Two men in suits entered, my father's legal team. They moved silently to stand beside me. You see, I continued, I've spent years telling my father that employees here treat guests like second-class citizens unless they're dripping in wealth. He didn't believe me. My lips curled. But last night, you gave me all the proof I needed. Jason's face was pale. Please, Miss Celeste, You're fired. Stephanie let out a choked sob. Jason's nostrils flared, his face darkening. You can't just. I turned to my security team. Escort them out. The same guards who had thrown me out last night now grabbed them. Poetic justice. Stephanie's wails filled the lobby. Jason struggled, but he was no match. As they were dragged toward the doors, I leaned in. Let this be a lesson, I whispered. That power doesn't come from money. It comes from how you treat people. The doors slammed shut behind them. And just like that, the Grand Celeste had new leadership.
Mine.
The silence in the lobby was deafening. Every employee who had witnessed my takedown the night before now stood frozen, watching the very people who had humiliated me get dragged out. I turned to the remaining staff, my voice steady but commanding. For anyone who thinks they can get away with treating guests like garbage, consider this your only warning. This hotel is built on service, not snobbery. If that doesn't sit well with you, leave now. No one moved.
Good.
I turned to my assistant, Clara, who had just arrived. Find me the head of housekeeping, the kitchen manager, and the bellhops. I want a meeting in 30 minutes. Clara, always efficient, nodded and disappeared into the back. I took a deep breath, my mind racing. I had cleaned house, but the work had just begun. If the rot ran as deep as I suspected, I would need more than just firings to fix it. I would need a war. Sitting in my father's old office, I leaned back in the leather chair, staring at the security footage of the hotel's past week. I had pulled up every interaction at the front desk, the restaurant, and the hallways. What I saw made my stomach churn. Staff mocking guests behind their backs, ignoring those who didn't look rich enough. Waiters pocketing tips that were meant for the cooks. It was worse than I had thought. Clara returned, a nervous look on her face. Victoria, you're going to want to see this. She placed a thick folder in front of me, financial reports. I flipped through them, my eyes narrowing at the glaring inconsistencies. Someone's skimming money, I muttered. More than someone, Clara whispered. It's deep. I exhaled slowly. It wasn't just about the employees being cruel. It was corruption at the core of the business. Whoever was behind this, they weren't just going to lose their job. They were going to pay. I had the names, the transactions, the backdoor deals. But what I hadn't expected, the person orchestrating it all. Patrick Kingston. My father's right-hand man. The one he had trusted for years. He had been running a scheme, siphoning off money from the hotel's budget while cutting costs on staff and maintenance. He was the reason guests were being mistreated. Because he was hiring the worst kind of people. People who cared about nothing but themselves. I clenched my jaw. Patrick had no idea what was coming. I had Patrick meet me in the executive boardroom. He walked in, all confidence, his expensive watch gleaming under the soft light. Victoria, he greeted, his voice dripping with fake charm. I heard about your little entrance last night. I smiled, sharp and cold. Did you? His grin faltered. I slid the file across the table. Go ahead. Open it. He frowned, flipping through the pages. With every passing second, his face paled. These, I said, tapping my fingers against the table, are the records of every dollar you stole. Every unethical deal you made. Every lie you told my father. Patrick forced a chuckle. Victoria, you don't understand business. These are standard. I cut him off. Save it. His jaw clenched. You have two choices, I said, leaning forward. Resign. Or have your crimes exposed to my father, the press, and the police? For the first time, real fear flickered in his eyes. You can't do this, he hissed. I already have. Security entered the room. Patrick stiffened, his breath shallow. You have 5 minutes to pack your things, I said smoothly. And if I ever see your face near my hotel again, I tilted my head. Let's just say you won't like what happens. The last thing I saw before he was dragged out? The absolute terror in his eyes. With Patrick gone, I called a staff meeting. No more fake smiles. No more pretending. I told them the truth. I went undercover to see how guests are really treated here, I began. What I found was unacceptable. Some looked nervous. Others guilty. Things are changing. Effective immediately, every employee who stays will undergo retraining. Guests will be treated with respect, whether they walk in wearing diamonds or sneakers. I glanced around the room. If that's a problem, the door's right there. No one moved.
Good.
Then let's get to work. Change wasn't easy. Some employees resisted. Others quit. But the ones who stayed, they worked harder than ever. I started rewarding good service. The housekeepers, who were overworked and underpaid, got raises. The kitchen staff, who had been ignored for years, got recognition. Slowly, the culture of the Grand Celeste shifted. But I knew one thing. Not everyone was happy about it. It started small. Guest complaints about missing items. Sudden plumbing issues. Food being accidentally ruined. Someone inside the hotel was trying to undermine me. And I had a pretty good idea who. One night, I was reviewing security footage when I caught him. Marcus, the former assistant manager, a close ally of Patrick's. He had stayed after Patrick was fired, pretending to be on my side. But the footage didn't lie. Marcus had been bribing employees to sabotage the hotel. I stormed into his office. His smug grin faded when he saw my face. You thought I wouldn't find out? I asked, my voice like ice. He started making excuses. I didn't listen. Security took him out that night. And just like that, another snake was gone. After Marcus was thrown out, I expected things to calm down. I was wrong. The hotel staff was shaken. Some still whispered in the hallways, glancing over their shoulders as if waiting for the next attack. The Grand Celeste had been under corrupt hands for so long that trust was shattered. Employees didn't know whether to believe in me or assume I was just another power-hungry executive. I had to prove to them that I wasn't. That meant doing what no CEO had ever done. I worked, not from the office, from the ground. I scrubbed floors with the housekeeping staff. I served guests in the restaurant alongside the waiters. I carried luggage with the bellhops. And slowly, the walls between us broke. One morning, as I was wiping down a table in the dining hall, the head chef, Maurice, a gruff old man who had been here since my father built the hotel, pulled me aside. You're different, he muttered, watching me closely. I arched a brow. Am I? Maurice nodded, his wrinkled hands gripping the counter. The Celeste name always meant power.
But you?
You're earning respect.
He paused.
That's rarer. I smiled. I had never cared about power. But respect? That I wanted. I was finally getting it. I was beginning to think I had finally turned things around. Then the fire happened. It was late at night when the alarms blared. Smoke billowed from the hotel's east wing. I ran down the halls, my heart racing. Flames licked at the curtains in one of the executive suites. Security was already there, fire extinguishers blasting. Then I saw something that made my blood run cold. A gasoline canister lying just inside the doorway. This wasn't an accident. Someone was still trying to destroy the Grand Celeste.
And now?
They weren't just playing dirty. They were playing dangerous. The fire was contained before it could spread, but the message was clear. I was being targeted. I ordered an internal investigation. Every employee, every supplier, every contractor, no one was above suspicion. Days passed. Then Clara, my assistant, burst into my office, her face pale. Victoria, she gasped. I found something. She handed me her tablet. A security recording. From the East Wing. Time-stamped the night of the fire. I hit play. And then my stomach dropped. Because there, sneaking into the suite minutes before the fire, was someone I knew. Someone I trusted. A senior executive. One who had been quiet ever since I took over. Elliot. I wasted no time. Elliot was called into my office the next morning. He walked in, his usual fake smile plastered across his face. I stared at him, my fingers drumming against the desk. "You know why you're here," I said flatly. Elliot feigned innocence. "I assume it's about the fire?" "Terrible tragedy." I threw the tablet onto the desk. Cut the act. The footage replayed. Elliot's face flickered with something. Shock?
No. Fear.
This isn't what it looks like, he stammered. I stood leaning forward. "It looks like you tried to burn down my hotel." Silence. Then his mask shattered. His lips curled, his eyes flashing with something dark. "You don't belong here, Victoria." I gritted my teeth. "I own this place." "No," Elliot spat. "Your father does." I tilted my head. "Not for long." He scoffed, but I could see the panic creeping in. "You can't prove it was me," he muttered. I smiled coldly. "I already did." Security entered the room. Elliot's confidence finally broke.
His voice shook.
"You don't understand. I was following," he stopped. I narrowed my eyes. "Following who?" But he refused to answer. They dragged him away. But I knew one thing for certain. Elliot wasn't working alone. There was someone else. Someone bigger. And I was going to find them. I spent days trying to piece it together. Who was behind this? I pored over records. I interviewed staff. I rechecked financial statements. Then late one night I found it. A hidden account. Money funneled out of the Grand Celeste over the last 5 years. Millions. And the account name attached to it? My father's business partner, Richard Harrington. My blood turned to ice. Harrington had been like an uncle to me. I had trusted him. My father had trusted him. And all this time, he had been gutting us from the inside. I exhaled slowly, my hands tightening into fists. Harrington thought I was just some rich girl playing CEO. It was time to show him just how wrong he was. I didn't go straight to Harrington.
No.
I set a trap. A fake financial deal. One that promised an easy way to pull more money out of the hotel. Harrington took the bait. I met him at his office, the contract sitting between us. He grinned at me, his old, familiar smirk. "Smart girl. You're finally learning how the real world works." I smiled back. Then I turned my tablet toward him and hit play. The audio recording played loud and clear. Elliot's confession. Harrington's face turned to stone. I leaned in. "You're finished." He stared at me. Then he laughed. "You think I'm afraid of you," he sneered. "I made your father's empire. I can crush you." I arched a brow. "You can try." I stood, slipping my phone into my pocket. "This conversation," I said, my voice soft but lethal, "was just recorded. It's already with my lawyers." Harrington's smirk vanished. I turned for the door. "Oh," I added, pausing. "And my father? He knows everything." For the first time, real fear flashed in his eyes.
Good.
Because this time, he was the one getting thrown out. Harrington was done. My father cut all ties with him, pressuring investors to blacklist him from the industry. Elliot?
Jailed.
Patrick? Ruined. The Grand Celeste? Stronger than ever. And me? I had proven myself, not just as an owner, but as a leader. Months later, my phone rang. A number I hadn't seen in years. My father. I answered. Silence. Then a quiet chuckle. "You really did it," he murmured. I smiled. "Yes," I said. "I did."
He sighed.
"The hotel is yours, Victoria." I swallowed hard. Finally, I had won. This wasn't just a story of revenge. This was a story of power reclaimed, of corruption exposed, of earning respect, not demanding it. And the next time someone thought about crossing me, they'd remember one thing. I was the storm, and I never lost.
The end.